Welcome to DFestival's Meets the Master series. It's very honored to introduce Professor Gabriel Kwok, a Steinway artist and one of the most influential figures in piano education in Hong Kong. As head of keyboard studies at the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts for over 3 decades, Professor Kwok has inspired generations of pianists. He has shared his expertise globally through masterclasses at renowned institutions like Yale School of Music and Eastman School of Music, and as a jury member for major international piano competitions. His dedication to the art of piano is unparalleled. We are honored to have him and share his expertise and inspiring journey with us today. Hi, Professor Kwok. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And you?
I'm doing very good. So
Great.
thank you for agreeing to take the interview with us. We're glad and we'll be very honored to have you in the festival. First of all, could you share about how do you actually select repertoire that both challenges and inspires students?
I think we need to pick a balanced diet for the students. I think it depends on the age of the student. I mean, as a young pianist, I think we need to play a lot of Bach and classical music. And because it's laid a very basic foundations in piano studies and learning. And then later on, then you can branch out. And then I feel that some students, they don't like to play Bach. I think they must play Bach. Later on, I mean, when they're grown up, then it's okay if they don't want to do Bach.
Do you know why some students, they don't prefer to play Bach at the beginning?
Because it's difficult, very difficult. From my experience, I think we have to take this very carefully and with a lot of patience in teaching young students. We have to practice with them, and then especially the fingering is very important. And then when you give it to the student, you don't just hand them a piece, go home and practice, and then come back and expect them to play perfectly next lessons. I think just do very little at a time. Don't scare them off. So do one thing, might be just separate hands or 2 lines or 1 page. It's okay. I mean, gradually. And then because playing Bach, you need a lot of articulation and finger techniques. I think a lot of students, for instance, after they play the 2-part invention, they are okay. Then when start the 3-part invention, then they have trouble. Then afterwards, they cannot control the fingers, and then they will just lost interest in playing these pieces. But I think it's extremely essential.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And for classical music, I think it would help the student to have a clear mind when they are young. It doesn't have to be very extremely dramatic, let's say some Rachmaninoff or I don't know, I mean very late romantic pieces. I think those can come later. I think classical music lays also a very important foundations. So a balanced diet, I think, is very important. Not just, of course, you ask the student, they always say, I want to play this, I want to play that.
Yeah.
But of course, they can play some pieces they want. But also, we need to introduce to them different repertoires. And then I think it's good for them later on.
Yeah, I totally see your point, because I think nowadays we have so many competitions and most of them require a very diverse repertoire. So I still remember my past teachers, they used to say, oh, when you have to play Bach, when they ask you to play Bach in competitions, they kind of use Bach's repertoire to test if your mind is clear and if you're like a rational piano player rather than emotional all the times. Because yeah, kids just love the romantic repertoire, right?
Yes.
But yeah, thank you for your response to that question. And let's go through to the next question, which is about balancing artistry and technique. So how do you actually help students maintain emotional expression while mastering technically demanding repertoire. Could you tell us about more?
Well, or maybe I can put in this way. I think technique is very important. For instance, when you mention emotional and or dramatic or great expressive playing, I think that also require techniques. And this has to be taught as well, not just playing fast techniques. So then we actually have to teach the student how to do all this. And as I said, no technique, no music. So the technique is to serve the music. Because I can, from my experience in the past, I think most of the students, they don't have enough technique to express themselves. So they use a lot of wrong body gesture or over dramatic emotion to show that they are so committed. But then there are many other ways of doing this.
It's like acting, right?
Yes. And then also they have a wrong impression of playing romantic music.
Can you elaborate a bit on that?
I think they think romantic music is just more emotional commitment. Actually, it is not. For instance, if you look at Brahms symphonies, you can hardly see any rubato in it. So in Bach music, in some way, it can be quite emotional. So I think we need to have stylistically awareness of the style and what we call is emotional. Because in classical music, for instance, if you look at the Mozart slow movement of a sonata, it's very we call romantic because it's very operatic.
Yeah.
So I would say we have to be committed, but not necessarily is emotional expression in some way.
I think it's quite challenging for teacher to explain this concept to students somehow.
Yes, this is very difficult.
You have students saying that, oh, I just want to be emotional. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? But they just don't want to practice with patience.
No. I think it's the other way around. It already gets so emotional. And then it's very difficult to teach them classical music because they thought I would give a little more emotion and more expressive, so-called, and then a little bit more glamorous sound, and they thought it's romantic. I think this is a not too correct approach.
So what's the correct approach you can think of? Or in other words, what's your philosophy in this aspect?
It's very difficult to say it in a few sentences. I think we need to listen to all music, especially, and not just piano music. And then I think listen to vocal music, I think it helps a lot. And then even when we say romantic music, there are many types of romantic music. There are German romantics, there are Russian romantics. So we have to be a little bit careful for emotional wise.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure this is so inspiring. I'm sure it helps students when they're struggling, dealing with the balance between expressing themselves.
Because we have to demonstrate and show them.
With
the sound, rather than just talk.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're moving to the next question, would you like to talk about performance anxiety? This is quite important. So what strategies do you recommend for students struggling with stage fright during, not only competitions, but also auditions, preparing for festivals and stuff like that?
I think probably the first thing is they have chosen the wrong repertoire. I think you need to pick the correct repertoire for yourself. Okay. Because every student has a different background, and also don't pick too difficult piece. You have to handle the piece, not just technically, also musically. You have to be over the piece. And then also I find a lot of students actually, they don't have enough techniques to control. That's why when they go on stage, they get nervous. So I would say, advise the students that you have to take in consideration how you perform under pressure. If you are very comfortable and then you play well, but if you go out to play in competition or in concerts, it's the atmosphere or the surrounding might not be so comfortable for yourself. So you have to take that in consideration and pick the right piece.
Do you usually get involved in picking the pieces, the repertoire in competitions for your student?
Usually, I will ask the student, what would you like to play?
But what about now?
No, I not just for competition. Even if a new student, he or she come to me, I will ask him, what would you like to learn? And then, of course, they will say a lot of things. Then I can sense what area they like or they feel more comfortable in. Then, of course, they can still play a little bit of that. But on the other hand, they have to play a little bit more varieties of mood or composer or different styles. Otherwise, for instance, if you want to play Chopin, you need also to learn to play Schumann, because you don't want your Chopin to be like Schumann or vice versa. So you need to play the other composer as well.
Yeah, so you know what the other composer's style is.
Yes.
And you have the clear mindset of the differences between these two styles. And you don't, well, they certainly have some overlapped, quote unquote, musical materials or anything. I mean, I'm talking about the language of music itself. So, but definitely they have like different approach when they compose their works. And yeah, I think you certainly have a point. So what would you think about having to play a wrong set of repertoire in competition? Would you advise students just don't go to the competition, or you just advise them to work harder and harder until they can feel confident about playing the repertoire?
I think you must pick some interesting repertoire. You see, there are some pieces, for instance, they are pretty long, but the material itself is not that much, that I will avoid those pieces. Especially you only have 20 minutes to show or 30 minutes to show. So you don't play 15 minutes with the same sort of playing or style, because you have to show all your best within the 30 minutes. So one thing's also, this day, look at the younger generation. I think one thing is very important is to develop judgment in their playing, and especially to play in the right style, correct style. I find that is not easy to teach these days for these things.
Yeah. And would you mind sharing like just one piece of strategy you use when you teach?
Well, I won't say strategy, but I just depends. For instance, if you play a piece, do you want to impress others, or you want to touch other people, or do you want to show how emotion can you get, or how intelligence are you? It's, for instance, you go for competition. Which competition are you going into? And then, what do you want to show? Now, sometimes you see, of course, you don't know what are the others playing in the same competition. And then suddenly you go there and find out there are 20 candidates, and all of them are playing Appassionata.
Or Beethoven 110, who knows?
I think from the jury point of view, it's really a torture. Because you go into in the hall and you bang all your way out, and then and then you're very happy, and then you leave. And the jury member had to sit there for 5 days, listen to the same piece.
While the applicants, the contestants will be like, this, I cannot help. I'm just here for fun. Impressed, right?
So as a jury member, sometimes at first I look at the program or what piece they are offering. But sometimes, of course, there's like just like pop music. Suddenly, some certain pieces are very popular. And then when everybody think that piece is overplayed, so they learn something else. And then the next 5 years, then nobody played those pieces. But they all moved to Liszt Sonata or the Ravel Gaspard.
It's
so,
like a,
so it's going in circles.
Yeah.
So I think you have to play the correct piece that you can play best, better than most of the others.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much for the insights on it's going to be so helpful to our audience and, you know, students who are having difficulties in figuring out what to play in competitions. Let's talk about the repertoire diversity. How did you balance teaching canonical piano literature with introducing students to underrepresented composers or like modern composers, you know?
Of course, if you ask me this question, I would say it's very important to play everything.
Right.
Because, but time is limited and depends how fast can you learn things. I think the standard repertoire, the choral repertoire is very important. We have to start with the choral repertoire and learn some of the standard pieces. We don't have to learn everything. Then you can sometimes you just play through the piece, or you listen, or you just start reading. So you more or less you play something. I mean, you don't have to study in details. Now for others, especially modern and contemporary music, I think this is our job to play those music, because you have the composer here, and if you don't play, nobody will play. So I think it is our duty to play your fellow students or your friends' compositions. I think that is very important, and also give you a different type of approach. So I think it's all very important. And also, I have this advice for the student who is finishing his studies: try to pick some not too often played composer, but interesting and good composer, and work on it. Because if you want to sell your program, if you only sell Beethoven or Chopin, then I mean all the great artists have been playing those pieces. Why should I come to you to listen to you?
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
I think you need to pick something which is not often played, and then you try to introduce those to the audience.
So you advise your students to include some contemporary works in their recital programs, even for competition, right?
Depends on how long is the program. I think it depends on the duration, and but must be interesting one. Interesting
to the student.
Be a little bit not too difficult for the audience.
To understand.
If it's too complicated, then nobody will understand. For instance, I have judged some competition. They have some commission pieces that everybody have to play. Extremely difficult. I mean, I look at the score. I couldn't figure out what is happening. And then I listened to 20 with the score, all right? And then I was so amazed. Some people actually learn it from memory. It's not a short piece. It's really, really complicated if you look at the score. I don't know when. Now,
Mm.
if this is so difficult, what happened in 20 years' time or 50 years' time? Will they still learn it? I'm not quite sure. So
Yeah.
I think not all that difficult and not too difficult for the audience.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Kwok, for sharing incredible insights with us today. I think your dedication to nurturing young musicians and your wealth of experience have truly inspired everyone here at DFestival. As we wrap up, we'd love for you to leave us with a personal invitation to this year's festival. What would you say to encourage someone to join the DFestival this summer?
Okay. I'm very delighted to be on the faculty of the DFestival, especially in Xiamen, which is so beautiful.
The coastal city.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they have the opportunity to play the concerto with the quartet DDS and to participate in competition and to play in concerts, in solo concert and chamber music concerts. So they can attend master classes and have individual lessons. So it's a very good opportunity for the pianists of all age. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in Xiamen in July.
Yeah,
2025.
we are also looking forward to meeting you in DFestival. It's such an honor to have you teach in the festival. I'm sure I will learn a lot from you.
My great pleasure.
Thank you so much, Professor Kwok. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in Xiamen this July.
See you.
See you.